She's only 9, but is Princess Charlotte already being groomed to take one of the most powerful titles in the monarchy? In a development that has royal fans around the world stunned, Princess Charlotte's growing public role and startling composure at official events are raising serious questions. Is the young royal already on the path to becoming the next Princess Royal? And if so, what does that mean for the future of the monarchy and for Charlotte herself? From behind-the-scenes royal protocols to subtle public cues, we uncover the signs that suggest her transition is already underway and why this move could change everything. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It began with a wave, a smile, and a dress not too different from the ones her mother wore in her youth. Princess Charlotte, barely out of childhood, stood beside her family during the coronation of her grandfather, King Charles III. But it wasn't her outfit or her hairstyle that caught the world's attention. It was the way she stood, straight-backed, composed, calm, as if she had been doing this for decades. A girl of royal blood, yes, but more than that, a child carrying something ancient in her presence. That day, millions of fans, royal watchers, and commentators asked the same quiet question. Is Princess Charlotte already stepping into the role of Princess Royal? What followed in the days and weeks after that public appearance wasn't just admiration. It was fascination. And beneath that, a deeper curiosity. A sense that something bigger was happening, something quietly orchestrated, but undeniably significant. Charlotte is only third in line to the throne, behind her father, Prince William, and her older brother, Prince George. But unlike her brothers, Charlotte occupies a unique position in royal history. She is the first female royal born under the new gender-neutral succession rules, which prioritize birth order over gender. This reform, enshrined in the Succession to the Crown Act 2013, ensured that Charlotte would not be leapfrogged by a younger brother. She would retain her place, her significance, and her title. But what if her role goes even further than that? What if Charlotte is being positioned, deliberately, strategically, as the next Princess Royal? The title Princess Royal is not ceremonial fluff. It is not inherited by default. It is granted only by the reigning monarch, traditionally to the eldest daughter. It has been held by only 7 women in British history, each of them a daughter of the sovereign, and each, in her own way, a reflection of the power, poise, and continuity of the crown. Today, that title is held by Princess and the only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II. And what Princess Anne has made of that title is nothing short of extraordinary. She has become the monarchy's most tireless servant, carrying out more engagements annually than any other royal, commanding respect across generations, and often referred to as the backbone of the modern monarchy. And is a no-nonsense operator, a working royal in the truest sense, someone who has never sought the limelight, but has never once shied from duty. So when fans, experts, and insiders alike began pointing out the eerie similarities between Charlotte and Anne, the poise, the focus, the seriousness beyond her years, it sparked a question with powerful implications. Could Princess Charlotte be following in Anne's footsteps, not just in personality, but in title? And if so, what would that mean for the monarchy's next chapter? The British royal family doesn't make announcements casually. They hint, they position, they allow moments to unfold in plain sight, trusting that those who understand the language of symbolism will read between the lines. And when it comes to Charlotte, there have been many lines drawn, and not by accident. Her increasing visibility at state occasions, her confident public demeanor, her reserved but alert expressions, even her curated wardrobe, all of it tells a story. She is being presented not simply as a royal child, but as a future stateswoman, a future figurehead, perhaps the monarchy's most essential female presence after Queen Catherine. This story is not just about a little girl growing up under scrutiny. It's about how legacy is quietly passed down, how tradition adapts without breaking, and how one child is already beginning to carry centuries of expectation on her small shoulders. We will dive deep into every layer of this unfolding transition. We'll begin by unpacking what the Princess Royal title really means, its history, its significance, and why it is never handed out lightly. We'll look at the only 7 women who have ever held the title and how their lives shaped, or reshaped, the royal family in their time. We'll pay special attention to Princess Anne, the longest-serving Princess Royal, and how her career of quiet resilience and relentless service may be influencing how the palace views Charlotte's future. We'll then move into the girl herself, who she is, how she's been raised, and how she's being prepared. Because make no mistake, this isn't accidental. The way Charlotte is being introduced to the world is meticulous, polished, and intentional. Her schooling, her public appearances, her interaction with the press, every move is carefully managed. And the result? A young royal who already commands attention not through performance, but through presence. We'll explore how fans around the globe have responded. Social media posts, fan pages, international coverage. All of it reveals a level of admiration that transcends typical curiosity. Charlotte is becoming a symbol. For some, she represents the bridge between the old world and the new. For others, she is the reimagining of Princess Diana's legacy in a post-Elizabeth era. Then we'll ask the tough questions. Is this too much pressure for a child? Should a young girl be carrying this kind of expectation? We'll look at comparisons across royal houses, how young royals in Europe are trained, prepared, and expected to represent their countries long before adulthood. We'll ask whether the UK monarchy is balancing Charlotte's privacy with its public demands, and whether this quiet push toward Princess Royal is empowering or burdensome. And finally, we'll explore what this all means for the monarchy. In a world where hereditary privilege is constantly being questioned, can Princess Charlotte become a figure of renewal? Can she inherit not just a title, but a purpose? Because the Princess Royal isn't just about rank. It's about identity. The title stands for strength, discipline, loyalty. It has no constitutional power, but it carries immense symbolic weight. And for a monarchy still adjusting to life after Elizabeth, still navigating the tensions between William and Harry, still rebuilding public trust, Charlotte may be its most powerful secret weapon. This video will take you through history, symbolism, psychology, public sentiment, and strategic royal planning, all to answer one question. Is Princess Charlotte already on her way to becoming the next Princess Royal? And if so, what happens next? For centuries, the British monarchy has been defined not just by its lineage, but by the titles that distinguish its members. King, Queen, Prince, Princess, Duke, Duchess, each of these titles carries layers of responsibility, symbolism, and status. But there is one title that stands apart for its exclusivity, its rarity, and its weight in royal tradition: Princess Royal. It's a title that doesn't automatically fall to a princess just because she's born into the royal family. It's not a birthright. It must be granted, and it has only ever been given at the sovereign's discretion. That discretion is guided by tradition, timing, and often a deep sense of trust and purpose. And because of that, the title Princess Royal is arguably one of the most significant honors a monarch can bestow upon a daughter. To understand the gravity of Princess Charlotte's potential transition into this role, one must first understand the roots and evolution of the title itself. The designation of Princess Royal was first created in 1642 by King Charles I. He bestowed it upon his eldest daughter, Princess Mary, in order to mirror the French style of Madame Royale, a title traditionally held by the eldest daughter of the King of France. In doing so, he not only elevated Mary's status within the royal household, but also reinforced the monarchy's desire to align itself with the refined traditions of European courts. It was a diplomatic gesture, but also a deeply symbolic one. From the outset, the title was associated with honor, prestige, and the unique role of royal daughters as both symbols of stability and instruments of alliance. Since its creation, the title has only been held by 7 women over the course of nearly 4 centuries. That scarcity alone speaks volumes. Not every monarch has chosen to name a princess royal. The title is never shared. There can be only one princess royal at a time. And once granted, the title remains with the holder for life, regardless of changing dynamics in the royal family. This means that even if a monarch's daughter passes away, the title doesn't automatically transfer to the next eligible princess. It must be reissued by the sovereign, and that decision carries enormous significance. So who has held it? Beyond Princess Mary, the list includes prominent figures such as Princess Louise, daughter of Edward VII, Princess Mary, daughter of George V, and most recently, Princess and daughter of Queen Elizabeth II. Each woman who has held the title has done so in a different historical context, but with a similar unspoken mandate to represent the royal family with integrity, grace, and service. Perhaps the most influential holder of the title has been the current Princess Royal, Anne, appointed in 1987 by her mother, and has redefined what it means to carry this role. She has eschewed glamour in favor of duty, often being described as the hardest-working royal. Year after year, she has consistently undertaken more public engagements than her siblings, cousins, and even her own brother, the current King Charles III. She has served in the military, represented the UK abroad, and quietly earned a reputation for no-nonsense, steadfast dedication. Anne's version of Princess Royal is not decorative, it is functional. It is service-embodied. And that's why comparisons between her and Princess Charlotte are so powerful. Not because Charlotte is expected to replicate Anne's career, but because she may be expected to inherit her spirit. The responsibilities of the Princess Royal are not laid out in law. There is no official job description. But historically, the holder of this title is expected to shoulder part of the monarchy's public burden. She acts as a senior royal, attends events on behalf of the monarch, and often becomes a patron to numerous charitable causes. She's not a successor to the throne, but she is a pillar of the institution, standing firm while others shift or fall away. In many ways, the Princess Royal is the monarchy's most trusted right hand, the reliable, the unshaken, the face of continuity. Now consider the unique situation in which Princess Charlotte finds herself. She is the only daughter of the future king, Prince William. She is third in line to the throne. She is growing up in a post-Elizabeth, post-Diana monarchy, one that is being rebranded under Charles and Kate as a slimmer, more modern institution. And yet, within this new age of royalty, there is a desire, both inside the palace and among the public, for figures who represent tradition without appearing outdated. Charlotte may be exactly that. What makes this all the more interesting is the fact that Princess Anne is still alive, still active, and still holding the title. And as long as she does, it cannot be transferred. That means Charlotte will not inherit the title anytime soon, regardless of speculation. But titles are about more than names. They're about preparation, perception, and projection. In that regard, the groundwork is already being laid. Princess Charlotte is being gradually positioned in the public's mind as the natural successor to the Princess Royal title. Her behavior at formal events, her body language, her wardrobe choices, each one is a silent nod to the woman she may one day follow. She's rarely overexposed in the press. Her appearances are purposeful. She's present at the key moments, never the frivolous ones. And this curated visibility is not an accident. It's the beginning of a royal blueprint. Beyond her family connections, Charlotte's potential ascension to the title also represents a broader shift within the royal family. For centuries, royal daughters were seen as vehicles of marriage, diplomacy, and lineage. Today, they are emerging as full-fledged representatives of the crown. Princess Anne proved this, and Charlotte could carry it further. If Charlotte is granted the title, it would not only be a gesture of honor, it would be a message. A message that the monarchy is placing its future in the hands of a new generation of women. A generation that balances tradition with presence, grace with grit, ceremony with authenticity. The road to the title may still be long. It will likely not happen until Princess Anne passes or voluntarily relinquishes it, which, historically, has never occurred. But that hasn't stopped royal insiders, media outlets, and fans from seeing the signs. The transition, some say, has already begun, not in ink, but in influence. It's also important to remember the deep symbolism of giving this title to Charlotte at the appropriate time. It would connect her not only to Princess Anne but to Queen Elizabeth II herself. A multi-generational legacy of strong, visible women in a monarchy often defined by men. And for the public, this matters. In a post-Elizabeth era where the Queen's steady hand is no longer there to guide the family, figures like Charlotte carry emotional resonance. She is the granddaughter of Diana, the great-granddaughter of Elizabeth. Her face, demeanor, and mannerisms carry echoes of those who shaped the monarchy during its most transformative years. To see her continue that legacy, not as queen, but as Princess Royal, feels like a continuation of a story the world isn't ready to let go of. So, what is the Princess Royal? It is more than a title. It is a role of permanence in a family defined by change. It is the crown shield bearer, the standard of strength that stands beside, not behind, the throne. It is earned, not assumed. And Charlotte, though still a child, is already showing the signs of being its next rightful holder. The question is not if she will become Princess Royal. It is when. And how that moment, when it comes, will reshape not just her life, but the very structure of the monarchy itself. Before the cameras and crowds, before the carefully pressed coats and royal waves, before the speculation and admiration, There was simply Charlotte Elizabeth Diana, a baby born into history, yet unaware of its weight. Born on May 2, 2015, at the Lindo wing of St. Mary's Hospital in London, Princess Charlotte was introduced to the world cradled in the arms of her mother, the Princess of Wales. A tiny bundle of potential, of legacy, of future. And from that moment forward, she became more than just the daughter of Prince William and Catherine. She became a symbol of continuity, of change, of a monarchy standing delicately between two eras. Who was Princess Charlotte? Not as a media figure, not as a future title holder, but as a person. Who was the girl beneath the satin sashes and royal protocols? To understand the essence of Princess Charlotte is to step briefly away from the formal events and press headlines, and into the deliberate, carefully crafted world of her upbringing. At home, she is simply Charlotte, cheeky, clever, affectionate. Her parents, known for their commitment to hands-on parenting, have often described their daughter as strong-willed and confident. Prince William once joked that Charlotte is the one in charge, a remark echoed in multiple interviews and even subtly confirmed in moments captured by paparazzi lenses, Charlotte gently guiding her younger brother, Louis, through a crowd, or reminding him to behave with a glance sharper than her age would suggest. From the earliest age, Charlotte demonstrated an unusual sense of composure. While other royal children squirmed, fidgeted, or shied away from public attention, Charlotte embraced it. Not with forced smiles or over-rehearsed gestures, but with a natural, curious grace. She waved at the right moments. She observed without fear. She stood where she was supposed to stand, but never seemed rigid or overwhelmed. There was, even then, something practiced in her poise, not in a mechanical way, but in a deeply intuitive one. Observers noted it early on, the way she carried herself, the way she mirrored her mother's elegance and her father's calmness. Her every movement seemed to whisper that she understood, at some level, the world she was born into. But Charlotte is not just the image the public sees. Behind closed doors, she lives a life that, in many ways, mirrors that of her peers' structured school days, family dinners, bedtime routines. The Prince and Princess of Wales have worked hard to strike a balance between royal responsibility and normalcy, a balance Queen Elizabeth herself once struggled to create for her own children. Charlotte attends the Lambrook School near Windsor, alongside her brothers. There, she studies reading, arithmetic, history, and languages, alongside lessons in kindness, confidence, and resilience. Teachers have praised her as polite, attentive, and exceptionally bright. She participates in drama performances, art projects, and sports days like any other student, but always with the palace's discreet presence just out of frame. And yet, even among classmates, there's an awareness, unspoken but understood, that Charlotte is different. Not because she demands special treatment, but because her future is undeniably extraordinary. This brings us to something vital: Charlotte's position in the line of succession. She is currently third in line to the British throne, behind her father, Prince William, and her elder brother, Prince George. That ranking might suggest that her future role is secondary, but in practice, it grants her a unique freedom. She will not inherit the crown, but she will inherit responsibility. She will not rule the nation, but she will shape its royal image in her own way. And that makes her role, in many ways, more dynamic and more complex. It also means her life will be public, but not sovereign. Ceremonial, but not absolute. And this hybrid space, between tradition and transformation, is where Princess Charlotte is beginning to make her mark. Her early public appearances were cautiously spaced: weddings, christenings, balcony moments. But each one revealed a girl who seemed to adapt effortlessly. At Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding, Charlotte was a bridesmaid. Barely 3 years old, she managed the crowds, the ceremony, the walk down the aisle with the ease of someone twice her age. In official photographs, she's often the most focused of the children, hands in lap, eyes forward, expression calm. Then came the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, a pivotal moment not only for the monarchy but for Charlotte personally. That weekend, the world watched her step forward, not just as a granddaughter of the monarch, but as a potential symbol of the institution's future. She was composed, interactive, and poised. She followed protocol. She helped Louis behave. She stood beside her parents with a presence that was startling in its maturity. It was during that jubilee that fans and commentators began to say it more boldly: Charlotte isn't just a royal child. She is something more. Something forming. Something historical. A future princess royal, perhaps. Of course, part of what makes Charlotte's story so fascinating is that she stands at the crossroads of immense legacy. Her name alone, Charlotte Elizabeth Diana, carries layers of meaning. Charlotte is a nod to Charles, her grandfather, now the king. Elizabeth honors her great-grandmother, the late queen. And Diana, of course, is the name of the grandmother she never met, but whose presence still hovers over every royal headline. In that name, a narrative unfolds. Past, present, and future. It's a name chosen not just for beauty, but for message. And Charlotte has lived up to it. There's the Elizabethan steadiness in her posture, the Diana spark in her expression, the quiet wit of her father, the fashion instincts of her mother. She is not just a copy of anyone, she is a synthesis, a modern royal being raised to be something new, yet familiar. Even her relationship with her brothers reflects this dynamic. As the only girl among three siblings, Charlotte plays a dual role, supporter and leader. She looks out for Louis, often seen gently guiding him with a hand or a word. With George, she stands as an equal, sometimes whispering to him during formal moments, other times mirroring his behavior in what seems like an unspoken pact of sibling solidarity. But she is also, clearly, her own force. While George carries the weight of kingship in waiting, and Louis enjoys the license of the youngest, Charlotte navigates a path that is more nuanced and, in some ways, more demanding. She must be the steady hand, the reliable presence, the elegant echo of tradition without being seen as distant or stiff. That's a tall order for anyone. For a child, it's extraordinary. And yet, she seems to carry it with ease. As royal watchers look toward the future, Charlotte continues to capture imaginations. Not through scandals, not through grand speeches, but through consistency, through presence, through her ability to stand still while the world watches. And that may be the most royal trait of all. Being born into royalty means you never truly choose the spotlight. It is cast on you before you've taken your first breath, before you've spoken your first word, before you've understood the concept of a crowd. For Princess Charlotte, that spotlight has followed her since the day she entered the world, and as she continues to grow into one of the most recognized children on the planet, that light has only intensified. But unlike many who shrink beneath it, Charlotte appears to thrive, carefully, quietly, and perhaps most impressively, naturally. Her journey into the public eye has been calculated with extreme care. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, now the Prince and Princess of Wales, have made it clear from the beginning that they would not allow their children to become media fodder. Drawing from the painful lessons learned by Princess Diana and Prince William himself, the couple implemented a media strategy that protects their children's privacy while offering the public just enough to satisfy curiosity. The result? Charlotte is neither overexposed nor hidden. She appears when it matters, and when she does, she leaves an impression. Charlotte's first few years were largely private. While her birth was a global media event, news stations camped outside the Lindo wing for days, and her name trended worldwide. Her earliest photographs were limited to official portraits released by Kensington Palace. These images were controlled, intimate, and devoid of the chaos that once surrounded Diana's boys in the 1980s and 90s. In these early years, Charlotte was allowed to be a baby, a toddler, a little sister. But slowly, that changed. As Charlotte began to attend key public events, a pattern emerged. Her appearances were never arbitrary. Whether it was trooping the color, a royal christening, or a commemorative jubilee, each appearance was carefully chosen for its symbolic weight. These were moments when the world looked to the royal family for reassurance, tradition, and unity, and Charlotte was positioned right in the center of them, subtly but deliberately. One of her most notable early appearances came in 2018, during Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding. At just 3 years old, Charlotte served as a bridesmaid. Most children that age would fidget, cry, or retreat behind their parents. Not Charlotte. She walked down the aisle with poise. She smiled at onlookers. She performed her duties with a confidence that seemed to baffle even seasoned royal observers. Photos of her waving from the chapel steps went viral. Not because she was adorable, though she was, but because she looked completely at home, even in a sea of stairs. As she grew older, the public's fascination deepened. It was during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee in 2022 that a significant shift occurred in the public's perception of Charlotte. This was no longer a toddler being led by the hand. This was a young royal in her own right. At every event during the Jubilee, Charlotte stood beside her parents and brothers with striking maturity. She participated in formal greetings, held composure during national anthems, and even gently corrected Prince Louis when he got a little too excited during the celebrations. It wasn't just endearing, it was leadership, visible in miniature. That moment between Charlotte and Louis, captured on live television and echoed across social media, sparked waves of commentary. She had gently nudged him, whispering something in his ear that calmed him immediately. It was an instinctive gesture, older sibling wisdom delivered without fanfare. And for many royal watchers, it was the first true public signal that Charlotte was already stepping into a role far greater than that of the middle child. The fascination with Charlotte isn't just based on her behavior, it's also driven by her presence. She has a quiet charisma, a calm seriousness that draws comparisons not only to her father, Prince William, but to Princess and even Queen Elizabeth II. Observers note her attentiveness during ceremonies, her ability to remain still and engaged, her eye contact with adults during greetings. These aren't just cute habits. In the royal world, they're training signs, subtle indicators of preparation for something larger. Her wardrobe, too, has become part of the public conversation. While always age-appropriate, Charlotte's style choices often echo her mother's timeless elegance. The dresses are modest, the colors traditional, the patterns subtly regal. Nothing about her appearance feels trendy or theatrical. Instead, her fashion speaks to continuity of her family, of the monarchy, of a carefully constructed image of the future. Even this, it seems, is intentional. And yet, beneath the surface of curated appearances lies a far more complex reality. Princess Charlotte is growing up in an age where every movement is documented, every expression dissected. A simple wave becomes a headline. A frown becomes a subject of analysis. Children in the digital age already face enormous pressures, but royal children are under a microscope of history. Their lives are both spectacle and institution, and that creates a tension no school curriculum can fully prepare them for. William and Kate know this. They've spoken, albeit cautiously, about their efforts to give their children as normal a childhood as possible. That means school runs, bedtime stories, chores, and limited screen time. It means soccer games and ballet lessons, music practice and playdates. Charlotte is being raised not just as a princess, but as a child grounded in values that transcend title. But the balance is delicate. For example, when Charlotte first began school at Thomas's Battersea, reporters and photographers were explicitly asked not to show up at the gates. The palace released official photos to commemorate the moment, ensuring the public felt included without subjecting Charlotte to intrusive lenses. Still, tabloid stories circulated. Classmates' parents whispered. And gradually, the walls of normalcy thinned. This is where the conversation turns. The media's growing obsession with Charlotte's maturity and presence isn't entirely benign. While it stems from admiration, it can easily blur into expectation. Every smile is praised. Every public glance compared to her mother or grandmother. Every act of composure is interpreted as training for future leadership. And therein lies the question, is Charlotte being allowed to grow up, or is she being groomed? The answer, perhaps, lies somewhere in between. Charlotte, like every royal child, lives at the intersection of duty and destiny. She didn't choose the spotlight, but she is undeniably being prepared for it. Not aggressively, not invasively, but methodically. Through example, through exposure, through quiet correction and careful timing. Even in the brief moments the world sees her, it's clear that Charlotte understands this dynamic. She is still a child, but one raised with an uncommon awareness of her place in the world. She knows how to behave in public, when to smile, when to stay silent. She knows how to carry herself. She knows she is being watched, and somehow, she seems to accept it. This awareness is what separates her from many of her predecessors. Diana struggled with the pressure. William and Harry rebelled against it in different ways. But Charlotte, at least so far, appears to walk the line between privacy and public service with uncanny ease. Whether this is sustainable in the long term remains to be seen. As she moves into adolescence, the scrutiny will grow harsher. Social media will become more invasive. Her friends will change. Her personality will evolve. And the question of who Charlotte is behind the crown will become even more difficult to answer. But for now, what the world sees is this: a young girl who, despite the spotlight, stands steady. Not with defiance, not with fear, but with grace. And that grace is why many already see in her the next Princess Royal, not just in title, but in temperament. Because sometimes, You don't need a crown to see who's destined to wear one. In the monarchy, titles often sound majestic, but carry responsibilities that are anything but ceremonial. They are woven into the very structure of Britain's constitutional monarchy, shaped by tradition, protocol, and an ever-shifting political and social climate. Two titles, often confused, but vastly different in scope, power, and symbolism, are Princess Royal and Queen Consort. They sit at different ends of the royal female spectrum. One represents the supporting sovereign power of marriage. The other, a quiet embodiment of permanence and service. One is bestowed through marriage. The other, through blood, dedication, and the rare discretion of the monarch. And in Princess Charlotte's future, only one of these titles is even a remote possibility. She will never be Queen Consort. That role is reserved for the spouse of a reigning king. Should Prince George ascend to the throne as expected, his future wife would hold that title. Charlotte, meanwhile, is poised to take on something arguably more distinct, the title of Princess Royal. Understanding this difference is essential not only to grasping what lies ahead for Charlotte, but also to appreciating how the monarchy distributes roles among its senior female figures, and why the Princess Royal remains such an integral part of royal continuity. Let's start with the Queen Consort. The Queen Consort has no sovereign authority. Unlike a reigning queen, like Elizabeth II, the Queen Consort does not rule. Her power is symbolic, supportive, and representational. Yet that symbolism holds enormous sway. The Queen Consort embodies the unity of the monarchy's public image, often acting as the heart of the royal household. She shares in state visits, diplomatic receptions, charitable patronages, and public morale. But her position, for all its ceremonial visibility, is tethered directly to her husband's throne. Camilla currently holds the title, after decades of public scrutiny and a gradual transformation in public opinion. Before her, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, set a high standard of support during wartime and national recovery. Diana, had she not divorced Charles and passed so tragically, would have likely carried the title and redefined it for the modern era. Kate, the Princess of Wales, is expected to step into the role when William becomes king, bringing with her a blend of relatability and refinement that the public has come to admire. The Queen Consort's path is always relational. She becomes queen by virtue of whom she marries. Her platform is vast, but it exists because of her proximity to the monarch. She does not inherit the title through birthright, and she cannot pass it on. Her influence, while often immense, is limited to the life and reign of her husband. Now compare this to the Princess Royal. The Princess Royal is not a wife of a king, but the daughter of one, or a sovereign daughter of the reigning monarch. The title is not given automatically. It must be conferred by the monarch, and it is held for life. No two Princess Royals can exist simultaneously. Only 7 women in British history have ever held the title. And perhaps more importantly, the position is a recognition of exceptional service and royal embodiment, not romantic attachment. It's a reward, yes, but it is also a responsibility. Princess, and the current holder, has made this role synonymous with quiet, unswerving duty. She attends over 500 engagements a year, works with over 300 charities, and has never once courted the media spotlight. She's widely respected, not because she's been glamorous, but because she's been consistent, steady, effective, and never wanted the throne, and she never needed it to wield influence. The title Princess Royal gave her a platform independent of any man, a rare thing in royal tradition. She has used it not for power, but for presence. And in doing so, she has elevated the role to something many believe has become essential to the monarchy's stability. This is the legacy Princess Charlotte may inherit. Where her future sister-in-law may become Queen Consort, Charlotte's path could look very different, more aligned with independence than partnership, more with long-term visibility than with fleeting attention. A Queen Consort shines in the moment of her husband's reign. A Princess Royal may serve across 3 or 4 reigns, Elizabeth, Charles, William, and potentially George, anchoring a monarchy through change. Charlotte's upbringing already hints at this trajectory. While her brother George is being prepared for kingship, statecraft, diplomacy, constitutional law, Charlotte appears to be absorbing a different curriculum. Observation, representation, poise, presence. Her demeanor suggests preparation for a lifetime of supporting the institution, not leading it. That might sound secondary, but it isn't. Historically, Princess Royals have often been closer to the public than Queen's Consort. They're seen as accessible, straightforward, grounded. Their value lies not in the throne, but in what surrounds it, the community, the commonwealth, the connection between the palace and the people. The princess royal becomes the face the public sees when the monarch cannot be present. She becomes the reminder that duty does not always demand a crown. Consider the differences in expectations. A queen consort must adhere to the optics of unity. Her public behavior is monitored as a reflection of her husband's reign. She is the face of the royal marriage, the family, and the state. By contrast, the princess royal is freer in some ways. She speaks when necessary. She doesn't smile for headlines. Her role is one of grit, not glamour. It demands respect, not reverence. And in many ways, that makes the princess royal more versatile and sometimes more respected. This isn't to say that one role is more important than the other. They are complementary. The monarchy thrives on the interplay of symbolism, visibility, and responsibility. But for Charlotte, the princess royal offers something unique: identity without dependency. A title she earns, not marries into. A position defined by her actions, not her affiliations. This difference is especially significant in the modern age. As the monarchy faces ongoing questions about relevance, diversity, and accountability, the women of the royal family are under more scrutiny than ever. The world wants to know who they are beyond their titles, what they stand for, what they believe in, what they bring to the public good. In this environment, a princess royal who acts decisively, serves consistently, and connects quietly may be exactly what the monarchy needs to balance its more performative roles. And for the royal family internally, having Charlotte as princess royal helps anchor the family across generations. She becomes the bridge between her parents' reign and her brother's future. She becomes the reliable thread running through the family's tapestry, someone who is present at the high points and the low, who comforts without fanfare, who represents without seeking applause. In that sense, Charlotte's path may ultimately be more influential than her siblings, not because she inherits power, but because she embodies the monarchy's best qualities: discipline, discretion, dignity. And when the time comes, if the title is passed down from and to Charlotte, it won't just be a change of names on the palace stationery. It will be the continuation of a legacy, one that began in the 17th century, flourished under, and now waits quietly for its next bearer. So while the world speculates about who will be queen consort, those who understand the deeper currents of royalty are watching Charlotte. Because sometimes it's the titles that aren't shouted from the balcony that carry the most enduring weight. There is a certain mystique surrounding the grooming of future monarchs. From private tutors and exclusive schools to shadowing state officials and mastering centuries of protocol, the training of a royal heir is deliberate, intense, and steeped in secrecy. But what about the preparation of a royal daughter? One who may never sit on the throne, but who is still expected to embody the monarchy's virtues, command respect, and serve as a lifelong representative of the crown? What if that royal daughter is already being positioned, not just to support the institution, but to symbolize its stability in a modern age? Princess Charlotte is only a child. Yet the signs of early preparation are there, clear, structured, and unfolding with the kind of precision that only the royal household could design. The public sees glimpses. Perfectly timed waves, whispers to her younger brother, effortless posture during national anthems. These aren't the actions of a child randomly taught how to behave in public. They are evidence of soft conditioning, of training wrapped in encouragement, of expectation shrouded in nurture. And while no official program or handbook has been released detailing Charlotte's royal development, those who study the monarchy closely recognize the pattern. This is royal preparation, and it's already begun. First, let's look at what happens behind palace walls. From an early age, royal children are taught the rules of behavior that extend beyond basic manners. It's not just please and thank you. It's knowing how to curtsy properly, when to speak and when to remain silent, how to greet dignitaries, and what to do if a camera flashes unexpectedly in your face. For Charlotte, these lessons likely began at home, casually at first, then more intentionally as she aged. There's a difference between politeness and poise. The former is taught to all children. The latter is groomed through observation, modeling, and correction. Sources close to the palace have often said that Catherine, Princess of Wales, is the architect of her children's emotional and behavioral development. A strong believer in early childhood education, Kate has publicly advocated for giving children the tools they need to manage emotional expression, build confidence, and maintain healthy boundaries. But what she's instilling in Charlotte seems to go beyond what is typical, even for well-off families. Charlotte is being raised not just to manage her feelings, but to manage a room. From the moment she steps into a public space, her actions carry symbolic weight. A slight delay in greeting, an inattentive moment on the balcony, a frown at an official event, any of these things can be amplified into tabloid frenzy or viral clips. And yet, she rarely missteps, rarely forgets, rarely looks lost. In fact, in many of her public appearances, Charlotte appears more at ease than many adults twice her age. How is this possible? According to royal watchers and body language experts, Charlotte is being guided through a subtle form of rehearsal. The palace doesn't choreograph every movement, but they do rehearse scenarios. Before events like Trooping the Color or national memorials, Charlotte is reportedly walked through the location in advance. She's told what to expect, who she'll meet, and what kind of behavior is expected of her. These walkthroughs help build predictability and emotional readiness, a tool often used in high-performance parenting. Then there are the signals during the event itself. Watch closely and you'll see them. Kate may lean in to whisper something brief, or Charlotte may glance sideways for a silent nod. These micro-moments are rehearsed trust cues. They help the child stay grounded while navigating enormous crowds, flashing lights, and global attention. Charlotte responds to these cues with remarkable speed. She adjusts her stance. She moderates her expression. She self-corrects. This is not normal child behavior. It's learned, and it's effective. But the preparation doesn't end with body language. It extends to education, culture, and diplomacy. At her school, Lambrook School, Charlotte receives a robust academic curriculum, but also exposure to public speaking, theater, and even elements of leadership training. These may seem like typical parts of a private school education, but for Charlotte, they serve a dual purpose: to educate her and to prepare her to represent. When she reads aloud in class, when she takes part in group projects or sports competitions, she is doing more than just participating. She is learning how to be seen. And soon, she'll be learning how to speak for others. In previous royal generations, speech training was often reserved for male heirs. Girls were expected to marry, smile, and support. But with the changing face of the monarchy, communication skills are now seen as critical for all working royals. Charlotte is expected to eventually make speeches, visit Commonwealth nations, address audiences of all ages and cultures. This requires confidence, not just in content, but in identity. That identity is being cultivated right now. Reports suggest that Charlotte is already learning multiple languages. Spanish and French are likely at the top of the list, with potential expansion into German or Mandarin, depending on her interests and royal priorities. Language is more than utility, it's connection. It allows her to step into spaces and show respect through fluency, even at a basic level. Queen Elizabeth was fluent in French. Prince Charles learned Welsh before his investiture as Prince of Wales. Charlotte will likely be expected to carry that tradition forward. Then there's her exposure to formal culture. At only 8 years old, Charlotte has already attended royal weddings, state funerals, jubilee celebrations, and religious ceremonies of historic scale. She's observed the behavior of world leaders, stood beside her parents as heads of state approached, and watched as international photographers captured her every gesture. In doing so, she's been introduced to a level of diplomacy that few adults experience in a lifetime. This is immersive training. It's not just about learning etiquette, it's about absorbing posture, protocol, and positioning in real time. At public events, Charlotte is often seen standing between her brothers or beside her mother, not by accident. Her placement gives her maximum exposure to both expectation and support. She is never left alone, but she is rarely hidden. She is allowed to perform, not in the theatrical sense, but in the representational sense. She plays her part, and by doing so, she learns the rhythm of public life. But the most subtle and perhaps most crucial part of her preparation is the emotional coaching she receives at home. Prince William has spoken openly about emotional literacy. So has Kate. They believe in mental health. They believe in giving their children the space to express frustration, to understand anxiety, to recognize pressure. In the context of royalty, this is revolutionary. For generations, royal children were raised in stoicism. Emotion was buried, not explored. Charlotte's upbringing is different. When she expresses nervousness before an event, she is guided through it. When she's confused by press coverage, she's shielded but not lied to. She is learning not just how to be royal, but how to be whole. And this matters. Because if Charlotte does become Princess Royal one day, she will need to carry the emotional intelligence to lead, not just appear. She will comfort communities in grief. She will attend memorials. She will represent the crown during times of crisis. She will shake the hands of children in hospitals and veterans at cenotaphs. She will be expected to remain composed, compassionate, and connected all at once. And yet, she must still be allowed to be a child. That balance is perhaps the greatest challenge her parents face. They must raise her to honor tradition without being consumed by it, to step into duty without losing her selfhood, to know the history without being haunted by it. It is no small task. But so far, Charlotte's preparation appears to be working not because it's flawless, but because it's flexible. She is allowed to smile, to be playful, to enjoy herself. But behind the laughter, there is a foundation forming, a mindset, a sense of duty that does not feel forced, but familiar. Charlotte is not just being prepared for a role, she is becoming the role. And if history is watching, so too are the millions who see in her the next figure of royal strength. Not a ruler, not a queen, but a royal in every sense of the word, present, patient, prepared. Not in the far future, but right now. In the modern royal ecosystem, public perception is not a background detail, it's a driving force. In a time where global audiences are more empowered than ever to comment, speculate, celebrate, and critique, the way royals are received online can either elevate their image or unravel it. And Princess Charlotte, even in her youth, has become something of an icon, not through calculated campaigns or flashy moments, but through authenticity and quiet impact. To her fans around the world, she isn't just a royal child. She's a figure of promise, strength, and astonishing composure. And the internet is in awe. Across Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Reddit, TikTok, and beyond, Charlotte has become the subject of thousands of posts and discussions. It started subtly, snippets from royal events, close-ups from official portraits, short clips of her whispering something to Prince Louis or glancing meaningfully at George. But those moments, captured in seconds, turned into sentiments shared by millions. She's got it. One viral moment came during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. Charlotte, seated near her brothers, glanced over at Prince Louis during the national anthem and gave a discreet, but firm, correction, reminding him to sit still. The cameras caught it. The internet exploded. Charlotte is already the boss, one fan tweeted, gathering over 150,000 likes in hours. Another commented, if she's not the next Princess Royal, the system is broken. A meme followed, Charlotte with sunglasses photoshopped on, the caption reading, she's not the heir, she's the enforcer. That single interaction became symbolic. It wasn't just about sibling dynamics, it was a window into her presence. Fans weren't merely amused, they were impressed. A child so poised, so aware, and yet so gentle in her correction, it struck a chord, not just in Britain, but globally. Scrolling through social media reveals a fascinating phenomenon. Fans aren't projecting expectations onto Charlotte as they did with other royal children in the past. Rather, they're reacting to what's already there. She's not trying to impress anyone, one Reddit user wrote. She just is impressive. On platforms like YouTube, royal commentators and body language analysts regularly break down her movements at public events. Entire videos are dedicated to decoding her posture, her eye contact, her hand gestures. One popular channel titled a clip, Why Charlotte is Already Acting Like a Senior Royal. It features side-by-side footage comparing her behavior with Princess and noting startling similarities in their demeanor, even decades apart. In the comments section, viewers across generations and nationalities chime in. A grandmother from Canada writes, she reminds me of how Princess Elizabeth was, so composed, so steady. A young woman from the Philippines shares, Charlotte's the royal I want to follow as I grow up. There's something regal about her without being snobbish. A man from South Africa posts, I used to ignore the royals. But then I saw Charlotte during the coronation, she stood like someone twice her age. I was floored. This sentiment has birthed an entire online culture. Fan pages dedicated solely to Charlotte have tens of thousands of followers. Accounts repost her most elegant photos, comment on her fashion, often highlighting the timeless, modest elegance that mirrors her mother, and write affectionate captions like the little lady of the House of Windsor. Artists across platforms like Tumblr and Pinterest sketch portraits of her, imagining what she might look like in 10 or 20 years, often dressed in ceremonial regalia, standing tall, the caption reading simply, Princess Royal. But why this reaction? What makes Charlotte different in the eyes of so many? Part of it is timing. She was born into a new era for the monarchy. With the passing of Queen Elizabeth and the transitions that followed, People are looking for continuity, for something or someone that carries the values of the monarchy forward without the baggage. Charlotte, by virtue of her age and temperament, has become a vessel for that hope. She bridges tradition and transformation. She's a Windsor by blood, a Middleton by nurture, and a fresh slate in a family often weighed down by scandal and legacy. But there's more to it than just symbolism. Fans respond to how Charlotte carries herself. She doesn't perform for the cameras. She doesn't giggle excessively or hide behind her parents. She faces forward. She listens. She speaks only when necessary. In her silence, there is clarity. In her smile, there is restraint. She embodies the kind of composure that used to be the hallmark of the monarchy, but without the coldness. There's also a growing belief among fans that Charlotte may be the monarchy's long-term emotional compass. While her brother George is being prepared to one day lead as sovereign, and Louis is still enjoying the freedom of being the youngest, Charlotte has found her place as a kind of stabilizer. She is, in essence, what many believe Princess and was to Queen Elizabeth: reliable, unshakable, trustworthy. And fans love that. She's going to be the most dependable royal of her generation, one X, formerly Twitter, user wrote. Mark my words, she'll be outworking everyone by the time she's 25. Another popular thread asked users to list who they trusted most in the royal family. Charlotte, remarkably, ranked just behind Princess and above her parents, even above King Charles. That's not to say fans ignore her age. Quite the opposite. They are often protective. Many feel that while Charlotte deserves admiration, she must also be shielded from the mistakes of the past. The world saw how the press destroyed Diana, how it fractured William and Harry's relationship, how it fed on Meghan's every move. With Charlotte, fans seem united in their desire to preserve her integrity, not just her image. She's a child, one fan posted. A brilliant one, but a child. We need to give her space to grow up with grace. And yet, that same community continues to track her growth with awe. Each birthday portrait, released with care by the palace, is met with emotional commentary. She looks so much like Diana here. She has her great-grandmother's eyes. There's a quiet power in her smile. In moments of national reflection, fans now include Charlotte in the broader conversation. During the Queen's funeral, thousands noted how Charlotte adjusted her hat before the service began, an elegant gesture that mirrored generations of women in mourning, poised under unimaginable pressure. She understood the gravity, one headline read. At just 7 years old, she stood like a royal adult. For many, that wasn't just touching. It was defining. Because when fans say she's already royal in every way, they aren't talking about bloodlines or titles. They're talking about character, about composure, about the intangible something that separates ceremonial figures from enduring leaders. And Princess Charlotte, whether she becomes Princess Royal in name or not, already embodies it. To understand what Princess Charlotte may inherit, one must first examine what princess and is built. Because the title of Princess Royal, though bestowed, is not simply worn like a crown or carried like a name. It's lived. It's proven. And in the modern era, it has been defined by one woman, Princess Anne. Her legacy is not loud, not showy, but it is unshakable. And for the royal family, it has become indispensable. Born in 1950 as the second child and only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, and entered the royal world as a spare, not an heir. But from the beginning, it was clear she wasn't content to be merely a side character in the great story of monarchy. She was not raised to be ornamental. She was raised to understand duty, something instilled deeply by her parents, especially her father, who emphasized discipline and self-reliance. Anne's role in the royal family has always been defined by action over appearance. While she has attended her share of state dinners and royal weddings, her true contributions have happened far from the spotlight, and became the patron of over 300 organizations. She's been known to attend more royal engagements annually than even her more high-profile relatives, including her brothers. Her work spans charities, military institutions, health organizations, and community programs, many of which she has supported for decades. But Anne's dedication is not just in the number of events. It's in how she approaches them. She shows up on time. She doesn't demand special treatment. She listens intently, often taking notes. She greets people with sincerity. She avoids fluff, avoids unnecessary press coverage, avoids making anything about herself. There are no grand speeches, no public breakdowns, no personal memoirs. Just work. Relentless, consistent, meaningful work. And in doing so, she has redefined what it means to serve in the royal family. and has long been referred to as the hardest working royal, a title not given by the crown, but by the public and the press, often grudgingly, and eventually with admiration. In a family often criticized for its perceived distance or extravagance, and has remained grounded. She drives herself to engagements. She carries her own paperwork. She wears outfits more than once, often decades apart. To many, she represents the very best of what the monarchy can be, loyal without fanfare, dutiful without ego. Her personal life has also followed an unconventional yet principled path, and was the first royal to decline titles for her children. When Peter and Zara Phillips were born, she made the decision, backed by the Queen, not to grant them royal status. She believed they should live normal lives, free from the pressure and intrusion that royalty often brings. That decision, now seen as wise and protective, reflected her understanding of what royal life costs, and her commitment to shielding her family from its harsher aspects. Her own marriage, to Captain Mark Phillips, ended in divorce, but never played it out in public. She remarried quietly to Vice Admiral Sir Timothy Lawrence, and has maintained a private, stable relationship ever since. Again, she chose discretion over drama. This pattern of behavior has endeared her to the British public. Though she was once perceived as curt or aloof, public perception has shifted dramatically in recent years. She is now seen as a cornerstone of the monarchy, unwavering, dependable, timeless. At national events, she is always there. At moments of crisis, she speaks with dignity. When Queen Elizabeth passed, and accompanied her coffin from Balmoral to London, serving as both daughter and emissary, she stood vigil. She bowed her head, and she did it all with the quiet strength that has become her signature. This is the legacy Princess Charlotte may one day inherit. And it is no small thing. If Charlotte becomes the next Princess Royal, she won't just be taking on a title. She'll be stepping into a role shaped by an ironclad example, a role built not on charm, but on endurance, not on ceremony, but on substance. Charlotte will be expected to carry the monarchy's day-to-day presence when others are preoccupied with headline roles. She'll need to show up, smile, listen, and repeat, hundreds of times a year. She'll be expected to be everywhere, yet never too much. She'll need to be visible, but not invasive, respected, but never self-serving. This path requires more than training. It requires temperament, a certain internal stillness, an ability to handle routine with the same grace as grand occasions. Charlotte appears to be developing that temperament. Her public moments suggest a child who already carries herself with unusual maturity. She does not demand attention, yet she holds it. She's not flashy, yet she's unforgettable. In this way, she already echoes and, not in likeness, but in essence. And yet, the shadow of Anne's legacy will be a difficult one to step out from. Because Anne didn't just perform the role of Princess Royal, she became the blueprint. Every future Princess Royal will be measured against her. Her workload, her devotion, her steadiness. And rightly so. The royal family is, at its heart, about continuity. And has been that continuity through decades of upheaval. Through Charles and Diana's implosion, through Andrew's disgrace, through Harry and Meghan's departure. While others have left or faltered, Anne has stayed. And in staying, she has earned something rare in the royal world, trust. Not just from the public, but from the institution itself. So what does that mean for Charlotte? It means her eventual appointment, should it happen, won't be based on lineage alone. It will be based on merit, on behavior, on the quiet signals she sends in the years ahead. She won't be handed the title because she's the king's daughter. She'll receive it because she shows that she understands what it means. And that understanding will need to manifest not just in posture, but in purpose. Princess Royal is not about power. It's about presence. It's about being the hand that steadies the crown when others are looking elsewhere. It's about doing the work that no one sees, knowing that the work still matters. For Charlotte to rise to this, she will need the same mix of grace and grit that has defined Anne's tenure. She will need to put aside ego, focus on service, and walk a path where applause is rare, but impact is lasting. If anyone can do it, Charlotte can. She has, after all, already shown the traits that matter. She carries herself with composure. She understands the importance of family roles. She displays empathy in her interactions and restraint in her behavior. She has been raised not for glamour, but for groundedness. And in a world where the royal family continues to evolve, that groundedness may be its greatest asset. One day, Princess Anne's title will pass on. But her example will not. It will remain etched into the monarchy's fabric, into every handshake, every ribbon cutting, every visit to a children's hospice or rural town. It will whisper from Charlotte's shoulders as she steps into the same shoes and makes them her own. Big shoes to fill, yes. But the next Princess Royal may already be walking toward them. For centuries, the British monarchy has followed a pattern as old as its coronation rituals. Sons ruled, daughters served. While royal daughters were celebrated, adorned, and occasionally revered, their destinies were largely predetermined by tradition. They were groomed to support, to marry, to represent, but not to lead. That legacy, etched in the royal family's lineage for generations, began to shift in the 20th century. And now, in the 21st century, it is evolving in ways no previous royal daughter could have imagined. Princess Charlotte stands as the embodiment of that transformation. Her place in the royal family was determined not by her gender, but by her birth order, a revolutionary adjustment to a tradition once steeped in patriarchal succession. Thanks to the Succession to the Crown Act 2013, Charlotte was not pushed down the line when her younger brother Louis was born. She retained her position as fourth in line to the throne at the time, directly after her older brother, Prince George. This singular piece of legislation quietly rewrote the future of the monarchy. For the first time in history, a daughter of a monarch's heir would not be displaced by a younger male sibling. To the outside world, it might have seemed like a bureaucratic footnote. But within the centuries-old structure of monarchy, it was monumental. It meant that the modern House of Windsor had made a declarative choice. Daughters matter equally. Not symbolically. Not ceremonially. Structurally. It also reflected a broader evolution in global royal families. Across Europe, monarchies have redefined themselves not just through law, but through leadership. In Sweden, Princess Victoria is heir apparent. In Belgium, Princess Elizabeth is preparing to be the first queen regnant. In the Netherlands and Spain, female heirs are being raised openly and proudly to lead one day. Britain's change in succession law aligned the monarchy with that global momentum,